exciting video. We're going to learn how to work with JavaScript to manipulate the DOM. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up brackets. Always errors. Okay. So what we want to do here is create a new script. If it'll let me. New. There we go. I don't know what it still was. Okay, so I'm going to save this as index.html. And let's just get our standard HTML stuff out of the way, right? So doc type HTML, which specifies as HTML5, HTML, head, body. Some of you are probably wondering, why do you type this in every time? Well, I do it for the sake of repetition, so you can all see me do it, but there are commands and shortcuts you can do to insert snippets. So basically, anytime you want to start a new web page, you need all this in here, all this boilerplate stuff, linking the scripts and things like that. You can actually save that as a snippet, and you can insert it later, and you can go ahead and search the internet on how to do that, how to work with snippets in brackets or Atom or whatever program you're using. They all support it. But I think it's important to type it out, especially as you're new, because if you don't have this memorized, you're not going to, when you don't have those snippets available, it's going to be harder to put all this together. So HTML, head, body, this is all looking good here. And let's go ahead and just create an external script file and get that out of the way as well. So I'm going to go File, New, and we're going to call this, let's save it. We're going to call this calc.js, like a little calculator, okay? Perfect. Okay, cool. So, of course, the JavaScript file doesn't need to have anything in it in order to work, or at least in order to run. It can be blank like this for now. So what we want to do is we want to build a percentage calculator. Okay? If you ever needed to say what X is what percent of Y, and you couldn't do it in your head, so you go to some website and you search it up and you do it in there. So we're going to kind of do that same thing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll just show you. So, X is what percent of Y. And then, there's a bunch of websites that can do this for you. And you could put the information in here. So the one we're curious about is Y is what percent of X. So if I put a 200 is what percent of 5,000, it's going to run the math and it's going to show the formula, et cetera, et cetera. And the answer is 4% in this case. So we're just going to build a simple one of these. And what you're going to learn is you're going to learn how to actually make websites think, okay? Historically, websites, they would display images, maybe send some links and stuff. But any website that has any value at all can do some thinking and calculations all on its own. And we're going to need JavaScript to do that. And JavaScript needs to be able to talk to HTML. So that is what we're going to do today. But first things first, let's build out this form that we're going to need. Okay, so we've got a body here. Make this a little bit larger for you. Let's go ahead and put in a header. Percentage calculators, because there might be more than one for the different types of percentages that you can run. And then the first one we want to do is that, X is what percent of Y. Okay, so let's just write some text here. X is what percent of Y. Just there in a paragraph tag. And then we're going to need a form that has some elements on it. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So we're going to say form. And inside the form, we're going to say input text equals, type equals text. The type of input it's text, it's not a button, okay? Whatever type you put here is how it's going to display to the user. So it's very important you put the right type in there. And that's good for here. And then think of how the form's going to look, right? So we got a text field, and we're going to say, so X is what percent of Y. So the first number is going to be X. So you put a number in there, like let's say 5. So 5 is what percent of, and then we want another field on the same line. So even though I press enter here, it's still going to be on the same line. It never goes to a new line unless you put a BR, and that's really important, okay? Or the auto wrapping in HTML on a web page. But so X is what percent of, and then we need another form. So another input type equals text, and then probably there's a question mark here. So X is what percent of Y, and you would be entering the Y in. That makes sense. We're going to do a couple of line breaks here. And then lastly, we need a button. Now, I could use the button tag. That's one way to use a button, and then you could set an on-click listener on it. But since we're in a form, we might as well do it the formy way, which is input type equals submit. Okay, and I will say that the button tag does have some small differences between the input tag, and you may run into problems one or the other. And so we're just choosing one of the options. Is one greater than the other? No, but we are using a form, and so it kind of makes sense just to keep the form on here. When you start working with other like frameworks like Angular and stuff, they may have recommended preferences that work better with their frameworks, so that's something to keep in mind. But input type equals submit, and the value is going to be equal to calculate. So we want the button to say calculate. Okay, so there's our nice little form. And lastly, we probably need the result. Okay, so H3, and this would be something like this. And I'm probably going to change this, but result, is equal to 4%. In fact, let's just put 100% for now, just to make it a little bit larger. So what I want to do is I just want to run this and see how it looks. Some simple stuff. We've done this kind of stuff in the past. Let's run it. Okay. It's pretty cool how fast this came together. Percentage calculators, X is what percent of Y, and then of course you would type in. So this would be like the 200 is what percent of 5,000, and then we would click calculate, and then it would give us a result here. Of course, none of that's working yet, and notice how when I press calculate, the page refreshes and wipes all that stuff out. That's something we're going to have to address as well. So let's call this video done. What we've done here is we've set up the frameworks for our page, and actually, you know what? Let's do one more thing. Ha! Tricked you. Let's just link in our script. Okay, so we'll do that here at the bottom of the body. Script and type equals text/JavaScript. You've done that before, right? And source equals calc.js. Now, maybe you're wondering, hey Mark, why didn't we put the script up here in the head? Why aren't we loading it from here? So order of operations is very important when it comes to HTML here. Okay, and when we start working with JavaScript, you're going to see a distinct reason why we actually put it down here instead of up here. So what I want you to do is just hold on tight, and you'll see the reasons why here. But there is a reason, and it is very important that we put it here at the bottom here. So good stuff here. And let's go ahead and call this video done now for real, and then move on. Mark Price here at devslopes.com. See you soon.